Cameron Mackintosh is my guest this afternoon, with me till 5 o'clock, I'm delighted to say. He's come up on the train to see Les Miserables at the Palace Theatre here in Manchester, which of course is one of his. There are many, many of his: Cats, Miss Saigon, Phantom of the Opera, Mary Poppins, of course, which was absolutely magnificent. In fact, it took you a long time, didn't it, to bring Mary Poppins to the stage?
Yes, I first wanted to do Mary Poppins back in the 70s when I was touring the first production of Oliver I did, and I wrote, like a lot of producers, to try and get the rights, and got a very polite no. And it wasn't until 1993 that I was actually introduced by another producer called David Pugh to Pamela Travers, who at that point was 93 herself. And she grilled me very hard about why I wanted the rights, because for years she had stopped Disney doing putting a musical version on the stage, because she always wanted to do her own musical version with different music. She purported not to like the film that much, but I suspect she liked it more than she ever let on. And anyway, when I finally realised that I wasn't interviewing her, she was interviewing me, and I passed the test, this very beady old lady, I said to her, look, if I'm going to do this, I do genuinely love the books, I think she believed me, but I would not want to make a musical without the best bits of the film, and particularly that score. I said, I believe, I was turned on to your books because of that, and the public just won't be interested, nor will I, unless I can put the best of both sources together, which is why I think the show turned out to be such a success.
But this was a dream of yours, wasn't it, for years, many, many, many years?
Yes, I'm saying in 1977. I saw the show the year I left school in 1964. I'm sorry, the film I saw, and I just thought, like everybody, it was a brilliant piece, and you know, so I'm thrilled that it's had such a worldwide success, and I'm in the process of putting 3 or 4 other productions on it over the next year in other parts of the world.
You see, it is incredible. We think about, you know, Les Mis, it's here, it's in Manchester, it's going to be in Salford in a few months' time, and we think about your shows in London. But in many ways, you've been responsible for an era of international musical production, which has never happened before.
No, I mean, I just turned out to be the right person at the right time. I mean, and, you know, it became out of Andrew Lloyd Webber's and my collaboration on Cats that, to both of our surprise, people rang up, and instead of asking for the rights, they said they not only wanted the rights, but they wanted us to put on the production that we'd done in London. And from that, with the extraordinary roller coaster successes of you know, both Cats, Les Miserables, Starlight, Phantom, Les Mis, all of these shows went to all of these countries. You know, and I remember pinching myself sort of at the late 80s, and I was in Vienna, and there I had 3 shows of mine were running in this small city in Europe, in Austria. I mean, you know, when I started in the business, I dreamt of having a production in Hull, and maybe one day.
Have you ever managed it, Cameron?
I have, but not for a long, not on purpose.
I mean, no.
I did.
You know, you talk about Cats. I mean, a musical based on T.S. Eliot's poems. I mean, how on earth? That could never work. That's a ridiculous idea, isn't it?
Well, that's what everybody said to Andrew. Before Andrew, I think, finally rang me up and said, could we meet? And in fact, Andrew and I's collaboration started 30 years ago next week. And we had a fateful lunch where we both discovered we were both as potty about theatre as each other, and at the end of a very drunken lunch, I went home, and he played me what was then really 8 or 10 settings of poems from Possum's Book of Practical Cats. It wasn't the show Cats that we now know. And I went, you've got something there. And he fessed up that everybody had said it was a terrible idea. So we both thought there was something in it, and we started off by trying to do a double bill with a ballet company. Because at the time he'd also done Tell Me on a Sunday,
Song and Dance, wasn't it?
Which later became Song and Dance. But at that time, you know, there'd been talk of doing a film, but nothing had happened to it. No, actually, sorry, tell a lie. No, I've got it wrong. What it was that he'd done tell me on a Sunday, but they were going to make a film. The other piece of work he had was variations. And we said, why don't we do variations as the first half, and people could dance to that, and then we would, like a modern facade, we could have somebody sing the poems of Practical Cats, and the dancers could dance it. So we tried that, and both of us got no, you know, variations isn't a bad piece of music, but the cat stuff is nonsense, we don't want to do it. And so Andrew said, you know, well, why don't we just do a concert at my house, like he does for his summer festival, and we had 10 people on stools singing various poems, including Paul Nicholas and Gemma Craven.
Oh, really?
And Valerie Elliott, T.S. Eliot's widow, came and she went, "Oh, Andrew, you've written the kind of music my husband who had died by then, and would have loved." And that was the birth of Cats.
A lovely story. More from Cameron Mackintosh on the way. This is BBC Radio, and I'm Becky Want, having a chat this afternoon, I'm delighted to say, with Cameron Mackintosh, the man who has brought us so many extraordinary musicals, and also, I was just saying to you, so much happiness, so much enjoyment. Do you know the figures? How many shows have you got running at the moment?
I'd probably 20 to 30 productions that are under my auspices, and then probably 3 or 4 times that of shows that are just being done under license, you know, various Mary Poppins, which are not my production, or Les Mis or whatever. It's amazing how the properties just, people want to do them all over the world.
You really did change the face of musicals, didn't you?
Well, I think alongside with Andrew, we probably had the biggest influence on the change of musical theatre going, as well as between us having come up with a few good musicals around the world. I mean, if it hadn't been for the extraordinary both coincidence and a proximity of having such blockbusters as Cats, Les Mis, Starlight Express, you know, Phantom and Saigon, all happening within 1 decade. We turned what was a sporadic business into what seemed an industry. I mean, I think the theatre was never thought of as an industry before Andrew and I's success. That's the biggest influence. And on top, and the fact that it happened at exactly the same time that international flight became accessible to ordinary people. And as we all know, even locally, never mind in London or Broadway, word of mouth is the most powerful thing that powers it. Word of mouth became international, and therefore people wanted to see the real thing, as opposed to, you know, a good but sort of poor copy of what they might have read about was on in London or Broadway. And so it happened completely organically. I'd love to say that Andrew and I thought of it, but we didn't. We responded to it, but we were smart enough to enjoy it.
Yes, and you continue
and make
to
it happen. Yes,
but you continue to enjoy it. I mean, you're here, you're talking about, you know, the kind of, I wouldn't call it all new Les Miserables, but a redesigned Les Miserables.
Well, but as far as the material is concerned, it is an all new, because, you know, it's the same as when people do a new production. I mean, if the Royal Exchange did it, like they've just done a very successful production of Blithe Spirit, you know, that is very different from the one at the National Theatre. In the Straight Theatre, people talk about the text and they start from the text upwards. Well, it's not that much different with the classic musicals. I approach Les Mis as if I've never done it before. The only thing I've got is a built-in knowledge that something has to work as well as it did originally. There's no point changing it just for the sake of changing it. You've got to change it to make it something as good. And whenever I do a new musical, like, you know, I'm now associated with Oliver and My Fair Lady as if they're my shows. And I feel of them as if they're my shows. And I saw both of them when I was 12 years of age, the original productions. And I try and regain the original spirit. But I just look at the script and I try and make changes. I'm about to I'm with Duncan Kenworthy, the movie of My Fair Lady, which I'm in production with, which John Madden is directing, a wonderful director. And, you know, I have no compunction in moving this song to there and that song to there and thinking,
how many plates have you got spinning as we speak?
A lot. Probably I always have 20 or 30 and
20 or 30
things
spinning.
At least. And, you know, I also love buildings, and, you know, I run farms, and I have lovely estate in Scotland.
You've done an enormous amount for tourism. There's no doubt about that.
No, I have. I'm proud of it too, and not just here. I get more tourist awards in Australia than I do in England.
Have a good chat this afternoon to Cameron Mackintosh. More from